This is Minnie. She's 13 years old, and she's really the only person I have to talk to about books right now. So, this feels weird. I'm a little nervous. I've never done anything like this before. I'm Allegra. I am an American living in the UK, and I'm house sitting for the next 3.5 weeks. So I figured now's a good time to start talking to people on the internet about books. Yeah, so I thought I would do the BookTube newbie tag. So here goes. Question 1. Why did you start this channel? Mostly I found that I have been procrastinating actually reading books by watching people on the internet talk about books. So I figured if I have a channel where I have to talk about the books I've read, I'd actually have to read those books. Also, I've been moving around a lot. I'm currently living in my 8th country that I've lived in, and my 4th in the past 2.5 years. And so it's hard to find like a book club or anything like that. And I would really like a community to talk about books with. Question 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? I don't actually read a lot of books. This past year, I think I read 32 books in the entire year of 2024. Yes, that's the year that just finished. I think I read 32 books in the year 2024. So I'm not cranking out books all the time. But mostly I'm just like everyone else. I just want to talk about books and like hang out with other like-minded people. So yeah. Question 3. What are you most excited about for this channel? I'm excited to make reading social again. When I'm reading, it's a lot of reading in isolation, which is totally, that's what reading mostly is, but I think it would be fun to make it a little bit more social. Most of my friends and family are a 9-hour time difference from me, and that makes it difficult to find a time to talk about books with them. So I'm excited for that. Question 4. Why do you love reading? I think like most people on here, I love reading because you get to kind of go into a different world. I love finding an author or a book that expresses what I'm feeling in a way that I didn't know how to articulate. That feels really special to me. And I feel like that's a through line in the authors and books that I really love. They're ones that are really good at expressing emotion in a way that feels really relatable and in a way that I sometimes find it hard to express. So that's really cool about reading. I also really love words, and I love finding words that can help me express myself in a new way. And I just think words are cool. I also love that reading makes me feel smart. It can show you a new way to think or a new way to express yourself. And I find that really fun and interesting. Question 5. What are some books or series that got you into reading? The first one was Harry Potter. I went to summer camp in the mountains and we weren't allowed to have any sort of technology, but I had to get a special permission slip that said that I was allowed to listen to Harry Potter to fall asleep, or else I just wouldn't be able to fall asleep. So Harry Potter is definitely up there. I remember going to Canada when I was like 7, and my sister and I found a box of Archie comics and just became obsessed with Archie comics. I got in trouble for reading Archie comics under the desk, and that's how I lost my first tooth. I was reading an Archie comic while trying to walk, and I walked face first into a pole. And yeah, don't recommend it, but they're really good. And I really loved Series of Unfortunate Events. I think part of that is because I really love words. And when Sunny is speaking and she doesn't really speak English yet, and she uses all of these random words that only her siblings can understand, a lot of the time they're in other languages, and I find that really interesting. I thought that was really cool. And then I would always feel really smart as a 10-year-old if I was like, oh, I know what that word means, and that's why they understand what she's saying, and blah, blah, blah. It was also the only book series that I read growing up that had a real sense of tension because things didn't always work out right. I don't know, there are lots of books that I really loved. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I don't have any specific questions that I would ask a booktuber that I met, so I don't really know how to answer that question, but I can tell you my favorite booktubers if you found me in this one video. I'm sure you've heard of all of them before, but I love Carrie Can Read. I feel like kinship to her as another California girl living abroad, but still using her California library far too much. Books and Lala. I've really been liking Katie Marie. Jan Agaton, she's one of the most consistent booktubers I've seen. She just puts so much work into her videos. It's so cool. I love the Book Leo. I watch Jess Owens a lot and her book community. I'm not on TikTok or Twitter, so I feel like I miss a lot of the book news that happens, so she's helpful with that. I really love Riley Marie. Oh, and It's Me Mikkel actually kind of inspired me to finally film a video because she was talking about how Frederick Bachman is one of her favorite authors and he's my favorite author, and it was just cool seeing someone on YouTube talk about an author that I really loved because I feel like I don't have a very similar reading taste to a lot of people on BookTube. Question 7, what challenges do you think will be hardest to overcome? As I said, I don't read a lot of books, so sometimes it feels intimidating to try to talk about books when I don't actually read a lot of books, and I don't read a ton of new releases because I mostly use my library to read, and so a lot of the newest books have so many weeks of wait time. I've been on the intermezzo waiting list for at least 7 or 8 weeks at this point, and I still have a few weeks to go. The other thing is I'm really bad at digital communication, and I'm starting this channel to be part of a community, and I worry that although I want to be part of the community, I'm gonna have a hard time actually interacting with it. And also just putting yourself out there, doing anything new is gonna be difficult. I think the embarrassment or the shyness of being online is definitely a challenge to overcome. Question 8, where do you read? Currently, I'm reading everywhere. I take my Kindle with me. This thing is actually indestructible. I've had it for at least 10 years. It's an old Kindle Paperwhite. But yeah, I read on public transportation here a lot. I listen to audiobooks while I'm working out or I'm walking the dog or sometimes in the shower. I don't know if that's a thing that people do, but I definitely do it. I just kind of read wherever I can, which is kind of everywhere. What kind of books do you like to read? This is a great question. I feel like I've been trying to figure that out. I dabble in kind of everything. I read a lot of literary fiction. I read a lot of poetry. I've been into mystery novels. I'm not a huge fan of the everything has to be cozy trend because it doesn't feel like there are stakes in a lot of things, but I'm reading the Thursday Murder Club series right now by Richard Osman, and those feel like the perfect amount of funny and heartwarming and mystery and also stakes. As I was saying earlier, I like books that really touch on human emotion. That's why I like Frederick Bachman so much. All of his characters are kind of caricatures. They're all just a little bit too big to be real, but they all really express emotion in a way that feels really relatable. So even though the characters aren't always super realistic, their feelings are very realistic, and I love reading things that make me feel seen. My favorite, very specific genre as of late, I've been getting more into sci-fi, and I found that short, weird, sapphic science fiction has been really doing it for me. So think This Is How You Lose the Time War, I Who Have Never Known Men, Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, stuff like that. I've been really, really loving those. So if you have any suggestions for more stuff like that you think I'd like, let me know. I guess that was the last question. I also wanted to go over the books that I brought house sitting because I brought far too many. Yeah, this many books for 3.5 weeks, definitely too many. But there are a lot that I'm really excited about in here. I don't know a lot about most of these books. I often go into books blind or just kind of what I've heard about them. I'll tell you what I can about these books, but a lot of them I genuinely have no idea. I have The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman. This is the 4th in the Thursday Murder Club series. So this is about a group of 4 friends at a retirement community who try to solve cold cases, and they just keep getting themselves involved in these situations where they have to solve real life crimes and murders. And I've been so excited to read this one, but I've been putting off reading it because I know it's the last one that's out right now. And so I think I just need to bite the bullet. No pun intended. I think I just need to bite the bullet and read it. This is one of the funniest series, but also one of the most heartfelt that I've ever read. This one I'm really excited about. It's called Barbarian Days by William Finnegan, and I got it through a blind date with a book thing at a local indie bookstore. They had all the books out on display and they're covered in brown paper, and they just had a few words written on them. This one felt like it was made for me. The ones that I remember that were on the front were surfing, journalism, and war reporting. I started surfing, I guess 2 years ago now when I was living in Australia, and I completely fell in love with it. I also specifically studied war reporting and war journalism during my journalism degree, so this felt like the perfect thing for me, and I'm really excited to read this one. I have The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. I read The Villa by this author. It felt almost like if Daisy Jones and the Six was a mystery thriller. Daisy Jones and the Six is my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. It's actually the only one I really like. That's an unpopular opinion, I know. I really like Rachel Hawkins' style of mystery thriller, so I'm excited to read this one. Next, I have Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector. So this is a translated work. I believe it's been translated from Portuguese. I originally saw Quirine talking about this. It's a short little kind of stream of consciousness story. I've only read the first few pages, but I've already underlined almost everything. I'm really, really loving it so far, and I'm excited to keep going. I also have Glory by Novielette Buluwayo. I believe this was inspired by a coup in Zimbabwe. This is following a similar political situation that happened in a fictional country, but all of the characters are animals. So it sounds delightfully weird. I have De l'essence du rire by Charles Baudelaire. I'm much better at speaking and understanding French than I am at reading and writing it. And one of my goals this year is to improve my written French and improve on my grammar and stuff, so that's why I have this. I'm currently reading The Process of Poetry, edited by Rosanna McClone. I'm the copy editor for a poetry and literary magazine called Zimmer Magazine. So I love reading about the process of poetry, and the author interviewed a lot of well-known poets, talking about specific poems of theirs, going from an early draft to the final draft, and I think just reading it and understanding it makes me a better editor. I also just love reading poetry, and so I think this just helps me with my comprehension better. I have Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edolodge. This talks a lot about racism, specifically in the UK. I don't know much about racism in the UK, and being a foreigner living in the UK, I just think it's important to know about. I have My Life Has Stood a Loaded Gun by Emily Dickinson. It's a poetry collection of hers. I love these little Penguin classics because they're usually like 2 or 3 pounds, and it makes me feel really accomplished to finish one. I have Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. I honestly don't even know what this one's about. I love Gothic fiction, and Daphne du Maurier is really good at that. I know one of her books is about pirates, but I don't know if that's Frenchman's Creek or this one. And I'm just kind of going to go into it completely blind. So maybe there will be pirates, maybe there won't be. It will definitely be Gothic, and I'm excited. This is the last one, I swear. This is Rules of Civility by M.R. Towles. He wrote A Gentleman in Moscow, which is one of my favorite historical fictions. It all takes place really in one setting, which is one of my favorite tropes. Anxious People, which is one of my 2 favorite books of all times, also has that trope. I read The Lincoln Highway by this author, and I didn't love it. And so I'm curious to see if he has any other books that really hit. So that's all the books that I brought with me on my house sit. Thank you so much for being here. It can be really scary to put something new out there. So if any of you have started a BookTube channel recently, please let me know down below. I would really love to catch up on some of your videos and get to know you a little bit. I hope that you see my face again soon and that we can create a little community.